a corrupt lunatic. He just wanted good press. He's sending these guys on suicide missions. He's saying, look at my boys, that's this incredible suicidal thing. We're the best team in the Air Force. He was killing them.
Mm-hmm. Well, you've often heard the phrase that war is hell. Catch-22 would better put it as war is insanity.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've tried to read as many American classics as I can. I haven't gotten around to Catch-22 yet, so this kind of spoiled a lot of the book for me if I ever managed to get around to it. But now I know what a Catch-22 is for sure.
Right.
Hi, welcome to The Real Generation Gap. I'm BJ Kang.
I'm Fred Satilli.
And the movie we're reviewing today is Catch-22, a 1970 film adaptation of the American classic where a World War II bomber is caught in impossible circumstances trying to escape increasingly dangerous missions.
I recommended this movie because I didn't imagine you'd see it any other way. Yeah. And Catch-22 is a phrase that you hear people say, but they say it for the wrong reasons. Right? And now that you watch the movie, you understand what a catch-22 is. Yeah. It's not just a catch. Like, here's the catch. You got to, you have to pay before you go in. That would be the catch. Catch-22 would be, you have to pay before you go in, but we don't accept your money. It's like, well, how am I going to pay if you don't accept my money, right? Yeah. Some, an immovable object meeting an irresistible force.
Like a paradoxical, impossible situation.
Right. And this movie was based on everybody was crazy. This guy's a bomber. He's a bombardier in a B-25.
Yeah.
He felt that he was crazy. He felt that the Army was crazy. He felt that the people were crazy. And let's face it, in war, almost everything is crazy.
Yeah.
His catch-22 was, if I'm crazy and you're crazy and this is all crazy, in the Army or the Air Force, they have to send you home if you're crazy. They can't have insane soldiers. But catch-22 is, if you acknowledge that you're crazy, you must not be crazy so you can stay in the airplane.
Yeah.
So there he was trapped, and everybody there was trapped.
Doc, I don't want to fly anymore.
Why? It's dangerous.
Listen, I told you. Let's get out of here. Huh?
There's a rule that says I have to ground anyone who's crazy.
I'm crazy.
Who says so?
Ask anybody. Ask Daly, Doc, and what? Hey, Orr, tell him.
Tell him what?
Am I crazy?
He's crazy, Doc. He won't fly with me. I take good care of him, but he won't. He's crazy, all right.
Yeah, that's proof, isn't it? They all say I'm crazy.
They're crazy.
Then why do you ground them?
Why don't they ask me to ground them?
Because they're crazy, that's why.
Well, of course they're crazy. I just told you that. You can't let crazy people decide whether you're crazy or not, can you?
He's all crazy.
Of course he is. He has to be crazy to keep flying after all the close calls he's had.
Then why can't you ground him?
I can, but first he has to ask me.
That's all he's got to do to be grounded?
That's all.
And then you can ground him?
No, then I cannot ground him. There's a catch.
A catch?
Sure, catch-22. Anyone who wants to get out of combat isn't really crazy, so I can't ground him.
And everybody there, from the prostitutes, that there was a guy who was exploiting the black market.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody was just out of control. It was a wild Western shootout every day, all day.
Yeah.
And I think that the author of this at the time,
Joseph Heller, yes.
Yeah, good job. Yeah, I think that he really wanted to show the insanity of war, but I think he also was, just as I am, fed up with catch-22 situations.
Yeah.
You go to an employer and the guy says, nobody's going to give you a job in this trade unless you have years of experience. And you say, how can I get years of experience if nobody will give me a job, right?
Yeah.
It's catch-22.
Yeah.
I wanted you to see the dated, star-studded cast, because this movie everybody was a star in this movie. I mean, it was huge people who had huge careers, from Alan Arkin to Orson Welles, Anthony Perkins, for God's sake.
John Voight, yeah.
Right, huge people. Everybody was in it, but they were young then. Look at this. Look at the picture, right? Bob Newhart, right? Norman Fell. And I don't think of Art Garfunkel as an actor ever, but he was in Two-Lane Blacktop.
Yeah.
So, but Martin Balsam, the job he did as the colonel, right? A corrupt lunatic. He just wanted good press. He's sending these guys on suicide missions. You say, look at my boys, that's this incredible suicidal thing. We're the best team in the Air Force. He was killing them.
Well, you've often heard the phrase that war is hell. Catch-22 would better put it as war is insanity.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've tried to read as many American classics as I can. I haven't gotten around to Catch-22 yet, so this kind of spoiled a lot of the book for me if I ever managed to get around to it. But now I know what a Catch-22 is for sure.
Right. Yeah.
And truly impossible odds that they are. And I feel like you were saying, Joseph Heller himself was I believe a bombardier. I believe that's the proper term for it in World War II. So he drew a lot from his own experiences to sort of write this book about how just irrational and illogical and just insane things are in war. So the movie is pretty interesting because it's not Captain Yossarian is like sort of, it takes most of the movie is from his perspective, but it's also from the perspective of a lot of his squadron members as well, because they are all dealing with their paradoxes and just the insanity of war themselves. I mean, you have I thought a really fun scene with Anthony Perkins. I believe his character's name was let's see.
Yeah, I didn't.
Chaplain Tapman. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Where he's sort of talking to Captain Yossarian about how to see the major, you can only go in when you can only talk to the major in his office when he's not in his office.
Major's office.
When?
When you go to see him. What I mean is you can't see him when he's there, when he's in his office. I've tried several times.
But when can you see him, ever?
Yes, indeed you can see him when he isn't there. That is, he'll see you, all right, but only in his office and only when he's not there. The other times, when he's in, he's not there to be seen, except when he's out.
What the hell are you talking about, Father?
Right. Again, another catch, like the movie was full of them. That was a great one.
Yeah. And it's a really, it really shows a lot of the sort of just irrationality from all sides, the irrationality of war, the irrationality of bureaucracy, the irrationality of just dealing with other people as well.
Right. And that irrationality came right from Bob Newhart.
Yeah.
Who said, look, I don't want to talk to anybody. Only schedule people to come in when I'm not here.
Yeah.
And the sergeant thought, that doesn't make any sense. It's like, I'm not paying you to think. You do what I tell you. Yes, sir.
I know,
right?
and he's trying to get away from his responsibilities, so he tells him...
Well, that's because he was assigned a job that he wasn't capable of doing.
Yeah,
kind of like how it was with you-know-who.
Yeah. He tells his sergeant that, back in medieval times, princes and princesses used to wear disguises to sneak around. And then his sergeant asks him, why did they do that? He's like, what do I look like, a historian to you? I can't answer every question you have.
What does he want?
I don't know, sir. Something to do with Captain Yossarian.
Look, Sergeant, the job that I have to do is tough enough without having to deal all the time with a lot of people who want something. Do I make myself clear?
Yes, sir.
Suppose you're wondering about this.
No, sir. It's not my place to wonder.
I don't like people staring at me, Sergeant. People stare at me. Did you know that?
No, sir.
That's because they're thinking, who is that major that he gets to be squadron commander without ever having flown in a plane?
Oh, I don't think people are thinking that, sir.
Well, they are. When I have this on, they don't know who I am. Did you know in the Middle Ages, Sergeant, a lot of princes and kings used to put on disguises and walk around their subjects?
No, sir, I didn't know that.
Well, then I guess you don't know everything then, do you, Sergeant?
No, sir. Why did they do that?
Why did who do what?
Why did those princes and kings walk around in disguise?
How the hell am I supposed to know, Sergeant? I'm not some historian or anything. I'm just a guy trying to do his job. Good afternoon, Sergeant.
Sir?
What is it now?
What do you want me to do with the chaplain?
Sergeant, from now on, I don't want anyone to come in and see me while I'm in my office. Is that clear?
Yes, sir. What do I say to people who want to come in and see you while you're in your office?
Tell them I'm in and ask them to wait.
For how long?
Until I've left.
And then what do I do with them?
I don't care.
May I send people in to see you after you've left?
Yes.
You won't be here then, will you?
No.
I see, sir. Will that be all?
Also, Sergeant, I don't want you coming in while I'm in my office asking me if there's anything you can do for me. Is that clear?
Yes, sir. When should I come in your office and ask you if there's anything I can do for you?
When I'm not there.
What do I do then?
Whatever has to be done.
Yes, sir.
Sergeant, I'm sorry to have to talk to you this way, but I have to. Goodbye.
Goodbye, sir.
It was a fun experience to watch because it's like you get to see all of the different characters, different sort of Catch-22s, and they're all comedically, they all play out very well comedically. It can make the film a little hard to follow though because you're really broken up. It's like it's not very chronological. It's like you said, it's a very circular sort of movie, and I believe that's how the book was written as well. Was that it almost seemed, it was like non-chronological kind of, and it seemed almost like the stream of narrative didn't make sense until like later scenes come, you realize it's more connected, and that seems hard to adapt into a movie.
Yeah, that's a big thing in life. Not everything in life is linear.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're going along and things are happening to the left and right and above and below, and they have to all be taken into account. Meanwhile, you're still trying to move forward, but you're dragging all these loads with you.
Yeah.
And you got to take into account what other people think and certain circumstances, and if you can afford it, and you're trying to make money to do something, and while you're making money to do something, you lose the opportunity to do the thing.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff, So that's why some stories can't be told in a linear style. It's like, to understand this story, you first have to know so much background so you can see why the person... A good example would be a health problem. Like, somebody wants to be a champion boxer, but he's got a terrible health problem.
Yeah.
Right? So it's not just the training and the boxing, which is taxing enough, but in the meantime, he's got a family problem, a health problem, maybe a ethnicity problem that all contribute to the overall story. And it's hard to write a story like that, especially and try to make it fun.
Yeah.
And a lot of the fun in this movie is the characters, And one of them I had to look up. I couldn't even remember his name. The character by Richard Benjamin.
Major Danby. Yeah.
Yeah. He's laughing everything off. He's having a good old time.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, let's all get in the plane, shoot down some enemy. Woo!
Good afternoon, men. This is Major Danby, your flight operations officer, welcoming you to today's mission. Now, you've all been briefed on this morning's run, so I won't go over the details again. There's no sense naming names, since the enemy is probably listening, and there's no reason I can think of to tell him exactly where we're going to strike.
That's the stupidest goddamn thing I ever heard him say.
That's right. Weather conditions have improved tremendously over the mainland, so you won't have any trouble at all seeing the target. Of course, you mustn't forget, that means that they will have no trouble at all seeing you. I believe Colonel Cathcart would like to say a few words before takeoff, men. And so, without further ado...
And then the other character that was great, Orson Welles. He's the big fat general, right?
Citizen Kane, yeah.
Yeah, right. And he had the incredible girlfriend, and he had his own son was his assistant, and he's coming to the base and making demands and everything, but his demands were not practical.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, no, you can't do that. You can't. They're like whispering to him, like, don't do that. That would be a mistake. And he's got to put up with that.
As you were. Good morning, gentlemen. We're honored to have General Treadle sitting in with us on today's briefing.
I don't want the men to pay any attention to me. Just carry on as usual.
Don't pay any attention to Dad. Just carry on.
Will you clam up? What about a chair?
Sir?
A chair.
I beg your pardon, General?
A chair! Doesn't anyone, for God's sake, know what a chair is? Can't you see a lady is standing?
A chair for Dad's... for the lady!
Let's have a chair!
So between him and some of the other characters, who was your favorite character, do you think?
I think my favorite character was actually Milo. Milo Minderbender, I believe. That's his name.
Okay.
Yeah, Minderbender. My bad. Yeah, Milo Minderbender. Yeah, it was Milo is definitely like a representation of the whole military industrial complex, the war profiteering and stuff like that, and it's played off so well in a character that just seems so
well. Explain it
like
and
a
then
salesman. Yeah,
explain it first, and then
yeah.
Yeah.
So Milo Minderbender starts off as a sort of just regular supply sergeant. You know, he's responsible for, you know, supplying the platoon, the squadron, or whatever. And he continues to come up with these opportunist sort of trades or deals to like get better supplies, but it very quickly turns into profiting. And eventually he gets the Colonel Cathcart to convinces him to bomb their own base to make a profit, to help out the war effort on their side. And that's kind of a catch-22 in and of itself, where it's like, in order to have better supplied soldiers, we must bomb our own base so that way we can benefit. How does that make sense?
Right. In order to get the better supplies, we have to be under attack.
Yeah.
He actually makes a deal with the Nazis.
Yeah.
And then Richard Benjamin's choreographing the whole thing. He's like, okay, now that last flight, you dropped the bombs too soon. We're going to start the strafing soon. Everybody get off the airfield. He's literally in the control tower controlling the bomb raid.
Yeah, John Voight's job as Minderbender, it was probably my favorite performance because he does a great job of being this really sort of stiff plastic sort of salesman, like, you know, really money grubby sort of like character. And honestly, to me, he was just like the funniest. It was just really
just
funny.
The money.
I mean, like,
no consideration for anything but the bottom line.
Yeah, and there's one part where as he's turning into this like opportunist and like this sort of capitalist, sort of like greedy capitalist, that when he talks to Chaplin, what's his name? Chaplin Tapman, right?
Yeah,
A lot of funny names here. Where he goes, if there's anything you need at all, just call me. And he goes, well, I was never issued a blanket. And he goes, well, if there's anything you need at all,
right.
Like, that's your actual job. You are the
the tiniest thing he couldn't do, but he could have easily got him a truckload of vodka.
Yeah,
but a blanket. Yeah, what do I look like? Right?
Yeah.
Now, I'm glad that he was your favorite character because there was a little segment of speech in there regarding him that was really cool. Mm-hmm. And that's when they called in the Nazi bomb strike on their own airfield.
Yeah.
He was killed. In the action there. Mm-hmm. And they said, well, he was killed and he made all this money with the syndicate because his thing was called the syndicate.
Yeah, M&M Enterprises, I believe.
That was more important to him than the Air Force or the war effort or anything. He had shares in the syndicate. So he said, oh, he's a rich man. He's got 40 shares in the syndicate. He said, he's dead. He goes, well, his wife will get it then. He goes, he didn't have time to get married. He goes, well, his parents will get it. And Alan Arkin goes, his parents don't need it. They're rich. And then he said, well, then they'll understand. And that was heavy.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you have rich, avaristic parents and you were killed, making a business deal, they'll understand. And I thought that was a very heavy philosophical moment.
Mm-hmm.
You're AWOL, you Sarian. I thought you knew better than that. That's not smart. Nately would never do anything that dumb.
He's dead.
It's too bad. He was a nice fellow.
Well, your boys made a nice direct hit on him.
But he died a rich man. He had over 60 shares in the syndicate.
What good is that? He's dead.
And his family will get it.
He didn't have time to have a family.
And his parents will get it.
They don't need it. They're rich.
Then they'll understand.
Now, my favorite character, I wish I could remember his name, but there was somebody in the air team there that was asking everybody to fly with him. Mm-hmm. Said, come and fly with me, be on my thing. I'm a very good pilot. They say, you get shot down every time. He says, yeah, but I'm still here. You crashed a plane into the mountain, but I'm still here. He's like, come fly with me. He says, I'd be crazy to fly with you. He goes, it'd be crazy not to fly with me. So then, every time he got shot down, he would return. He would either swim back to shore.
You're talking about Orr, I believe. That's his name.
Right.
There isn't anyone in the squadron who wants to fly with you. You're a one-man disaster area.
They're crazy.
I agree with them.
You're crazy.
And in the end, he got shot down, but he escaped the entire war effort by escaping to Scandinavia.
Sweden, yeah.
He rode the lifeboat, right? So all that time, he wasn't being shot down. He was training. So he was like, well, if I get shot down, can I do 10 miles, right? Can I get shot down 100 miles out? Can I make it to shore? Because he knew they would come looking for him.
Yeah.
So after a while, he's like, you know what? I think I can make it all the way to Sweden. I'm going to get shot down. I'm going to get in a life raft. And he made it.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Yossarian, he was like, he'd been trying to get out of this the whole time. He was like, if he made it, I can make it.
He made it, so can I!
We gotta stop him. Yossarian!
I can do it, Danby!
They'll catch you. They'll bring you back.
I can do it!
This is insane!
I can do it!
What about your clothes?
They'll never recognize me without my uniform.
You'll be on the run with no friends. You'll live in constant danger of betrayal.
I live that way now.
Yossarian, for God's sake, hurry up!
So long, Chaplain.
How do you feel, Yossarian?
Fine. Except I'm scared to death.
You'll have to keep on your toes every minute.
I'll keep on my toes.
You'll have to jump.
I'll jump.
Jump!
Now it made sense why he told everybody, fly with me. It's a good idea. You should be flying with me. Because he knew at one point they were going to escape the war. That was his way out, his bizarre concept of what to do and how to do it. So that's why he was my favorite, because he had like the hidden secret all through. And he also was aloof of what was going on. Mm-hmm. He was training for an escape. That was what he was doing every day. They'd go up, they'd do the bomb run. He'd be like, all right, time to get shot down and see how far I can get, So I thought that was a fantastically funny idea.
Yeah. The movie definitely has a lot of comedy. Like I said, I thought it felt sort of like a sitcom. I almost would feel that it would perhaps the book would have been better adapted into almost an episodic sort of format instead of like a film narrative. I felt like there was just a lot from the book, and I know I've never really read the book, but from what I have read, there's a lot really that you could take from each character's own sort of situation or dilemma that they were in that could have been expanded upon a lot more that I don't think they had enough time for in a movie or enough scope for, really.
I like that about you. Mm-hmm. You definitely you see the movie, but you want more. You want more character development. You want to make everything into a series. Mm-hmm. You really get involved, don't you?
I like to see a story told as best as it could be.
You want the rest of the story.
Yeah.
One of my favorite was the prostitutes. It was in Italy. There was like 100 prostitutes, and they were all giddy. They weren't oppressed. They mm-hmm. weren't like unhappy to be doing this. They were having a good time doing this. At one point, after they bombed the base, they had to move all the prostitutes somewhere, and that's when they found out that they all worked for the syndicate. Mm-hmm. And they knew that they all worked for the syndicate. Like the prostitutes understood the economic situation. And then they had this scene, which was our producer's, one of her favorite scenes, and a really, really old Italian guy. And he's sitting there and the prostitutes are all over their beautiful girls, right? And Art Garfunkel said,
"Why are we crazy?"
Because you don't know how to stay alive. That's the secret of life.
But we have a war to win.
But America will lose the war. Italy will win it.
America's the strongest nation on earth. The American fighting man is the best trained, the best equipped, the best fed.
Exactly. Italy, on the other hand, is one of the weakest nations on earth. And the Italian fighting man is hardly equipped at all. And it's why my country is doing so well while your country is doing so poorly.
That's just silly. Italy was occupied by the Germans and is now being occupied by us. You call that doing well?
Of course I do. The Germans are being driven out and we're still here. In a few years you'll be gone and we will still be here. You see, Italy is a very poor, weak country. And that is what makes us so strong. Strong enough to survive this war and still be in existence long after your country has been destroyed.
What are you talking about? America is not going to be destroyed.
Never.
Well?
Rome was destroyed. Greece was destroyed. Persia was destroyed. Spain was destroyed. All great countries are destroyed. Why not yours? How much longer do you think your country will last? Forever?
Well, forever is a long time, I guess.
Yeah, it's interesting that that's what you took from that speech, because I felt like there is probably even more profound monologues such as that to be found in the book, and it was like that was a big monologue concerning, like a statements concerning like war and things like sovereignty and like being able to just what it takes to survive through a war.
Right.
It's like
ambivalence. Right.
Yeah, it's funny because that sort of monologue was like, yeah, it's good to die for your dignity, but what point of dying for your dignity? What's the good in dying for your dignity if you don't even get to see the fruits of it?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. He said it's better to stand than to die on your knees or whatever.
Yeah.
And I liked it when you one-upped me on this because I mentioned it in the movie The Magnificent Seven that I think it's Lee Van Cleef. I think he's the padre. He says to the gunman, the bandits will be gone, you gunmen, what we hired will be gone, and the farmers will remain. And then you talked about The Last Samurai, right?
The Seven Samurai.
The seven.
Yeah, because The Magnificent Seven is the Western sort of remake to Seven Samurai. And in that one, they're hired by a village to defend them from a band of bandits. And once they do, they realize that the victory is not really ours. It's like the victory is the farmers.
Yeah. Yeah, because the only reason to stay there would be if you wanted to be a farmer like them. And these heroic fighters, they were heroic fighters.
Yeah.
They had to go find another war. So who remains, right?
Yeah.
And that's happened since the dawn of man, right? There's been countless wars throughout history. You and I don't even know. I mean, all around the world, these been border wars between dozens and dozens of countries. When there was dukes and earls and viscounts and everybody like that, they were all constantly at each other and then combining to attack the king. And then, this is wars that none of us ever know about. And they just go on. And, just think of the millions of African tribal wars there must have been. Wild slaughter. And the American Indians, they constantly were attacking each other, right? Nobody knows. These are things that there's not a remnant left of any of this.
I mean, yeah, Europe was basically defined by war for like a century,
A century?
Yeah.
A millennium?
A millennium, yeah. It's like the 100 Years' War between,
Oh, that's the British.
Yeah, British and the French. I mean, the British and French were almost never not fighting, really.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's just what it is, like the illogical, how many years do you have to be fighting a war to realize that war is kind of pointless,
I know, they never get it.
Yeah.
I mean, we like to talk about American history, but you have to realize that while we were like in, let's say, 1800, Napoleon was going crazy. Yeah. It didn't even affect us. We're, over here trying to invent the airplane or something. Meanwhile, over there,
Napoleonic Wars, yeah.
They got a high-speed war going on. crazy.
So they definitely show the paradox, but did they say how to get out of it? Or is there any effort to say how to get out of it?
I believe that was with sort of the end, what Captain Yossarian, it was like sort of Captain Yossarian and even like Orr's sort of character arc was, you know, when it came to war. Like, war is a paradox, you know. And I'm going to reference war games here, but it's like the only way to win is just not to play, you know. So I feel like that was, for me, that's what I sort of got there when it came, like, war is a big paradox, war is a game. The only way to win it is just not to play.
Okay, that's a lot of food for thought.
Yeah.
I thought this was a wonderful movie, and one of the things I really liked about it was the imagery. They have, at one point, there's a guy in the alley whipping a dead horse, right? The horse is laying there, still attached to the cart, and he can't get up. He's
literally beating a dead horse.
Yes, he's beating him to death, you know.
Yeah.
And in the next alley, there's, you know, two guys are beating up somebody, and he just walks by, Yossarian just walks by and like, oh my God, these poor people. And then the real tragedy, this officer who is very respectful and very level-headed all throughout the movie, is very respectful to the Italian people and that kind of thing, and the families of these girls that were there and all that, and he ends up killing a prostitute and throwing her out a window. Mm-hmm. And then Alan Arkin, you know, Yossarian, he sees this, and he runs up there. He goes, "What? You just killed somebody. You murdered a human being." He goes, "There's millions of people being killed. There's a giant. Nobody's going to care about one Italian girl." He goes, "Why did you do that?" He goes, "Well, you know, I raped her, and then she was all angry, and she was going to start saying bad things about me, and I couldn't have that." It's like the insanity of that's overwhelming.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, he hears the military police coming up the stairs, and he goes, This is it. They're going to get you. They're going to put you in jail. They're going to give you the electric chair. You murdered somebody, you lunatic." And they come in and they go, Are you Captain Yossarian?" He goes, "Yeah." They go, "We're here to arrest you." Meanwhile, the killer is right there, you know, with a blanket. He's like half naked, right? Yeah. And he's, you know, he goes, "You're under arrest." He goes, "What?" He goes, "You're AWOL." and why did they come and get him to arrest him? Do you remember?
Yeah, to give him a medal, I believe. To start a plot with the colonel goes, it's like, "You've been causing a lot of trouble, you know, you've been causing a lot of trouble, and, you know, you've been putting these bad ideas in the men's head, and now morale is low." It's like, morale is low because we keep going on these suicidal missions you put us on, and that's the reason I'm complaining. And he goes, "Well, either way, we're going to give you a medal, and you get to go home. You just have to pretend to like us, you know, just talk good about us." And it's funny because that's another Catch-22 there, is like, you have to pretend to like these men. The situation is you have to pretend to like these men to go home, and the reason you didn't like them was because they didn't let you go home, and now you're stuck in this sort of really impossible situation there too.
I think you shouldn't go through life without seeing Catch-22. You know, it's like Fahrenheit 451 or Soylent Green or something.
Yeah,
you have to see those movies. There's too many references to it.
I think it's probably better to
Animal Farm.
Probably better to read the books.
Well, that's because that's because you can, and most people can't read a book. They wait for the movie. You know, that's the way they.
That's a shame. That's a real shame.
Yeah.
Because I could get the sense that there was a lot, and this is one of the hangups I had with the movie, was I can get the sense that there was just a lot that was still sort of missing. That there was a lot of like ideas being introduced where I could tell that there was more of, and that's why I sort of felt like, well, maybe if it was done in episodes, if it took each character by each, and you saw the theme and the message with each struggle that each other character had, instead of trying to put a hodgepodge together of, you know.
Well, you know who had big success with that, off the chart success, was MASH. Right? It was originally a movie.
Yeah.
And then it became a series for years and years. And they had it where, you know, they did the Colonel once, and then they did Radar once, and they did Hawkeye once, and they did Frank Burns once, and Major Houlihan. Everybody had an episode, you know, and you got to see dimensionally more and more about them. Mm-hmm. You know, so after 7 years maybe of making that show, they became family. You know, that's why when the show was canceled, it was a huge problem for America. There's people that couldn't deal with it. You know, they're like, you can't cancel this. I'm living for this.
Yeah, I actually heard.
Didn't somebody try to make this? Didn't George Clooney try to make this into a series?
I saw that. I looked it up. I saw that he attempted to make a miniseries in 2019, I believe, off of this.
I never saw an episode of it.
Yeah, perhaps this is perhaps that would be the sort of narrative format that I'm looking for, but I haven't seen it yet, so I wouldn't be able to know. I think I would give the movie I'll give it a 6 out of 10.
You're 6, okay.
Yeah, it was definitely there was definitely some comedy in it. There are definitely some very strong performances that I believe really, I think, encapsulated perhaps what Joseph Heller would have wanted. But I felt that there was still a lot from the movie that was missing from the original book to really get everything that he was trying to say from that novel like onto the screen. Perhaps a movie was not the right format for it, or perhaps this director wasn't able to capture all of it. But I couldn't get the feeling that perhaps that there was just too much and too little of a time, and but at the same time not having enough time to really expand upon everything. So that's the way I felt about it.
They sure did get a lot in though, didn't they? They sure did. I'm my ratings with you. I was kind of heart set on a 7, and I guess it's kind of arbitrary. Usually I start with 10 and I start to backtrack. And one of the reasons I didn't go with a 10 was I felt the timeline was real confusing.
Yeah.
This is the kind of movie you need to see more than once.
Thank you for watching this episode of The Real Generation Gap. Make sure to talk to us down there in the comments below. Did you read the book? Have you seen this movie? Perhaps any other adaptations? And which version do you think was the best? Make sure to let us know down in the comments below. And make sure to look out for the next episode. Thank you very much for watching us. And make sure to join us again. See ya.